When you are in the moment of an event, most people react to that event. That is, they act as they did before. That is, they react. Because they've gone to their prior data, and that data tells them what's so about that and how they should respond to it. So they react. I'm sorry? The master does not react. That is, he does not act as he did before. The master creates. That is, she chooses how to act in every golden moment of now. It may in fact be the way she acted before, and it may not. But even if it is the way she acted before, it is because she has chosen again to act that way, not because she is acting that way automatically. And so we see the difference between one who reacts and one who creates. And as you know from conversations with God, those are the same word, only the C and the R have gotten mixed up. When you see what you are, you only create. I can't help it. Do you understand? You know, we're being a little cute up here with the words, but sometimes that cuteness gets right to the heart of it. Right to the heart of it. When you see who you really are, then the C and the R change places, and you no longer react, you create. It's the same word. And that's what we're talking about here. That is the path to emotional independence. That is the road to emotional freedom. You had a question and then lunch. Yellow?
My name is Joe, and it seems to me that deciding how you're going to feel about something ahead of time is to prejudge a naturalistic response to a situation without all the evidence in front of you. And that goes against my nature.
Yeah. First of all, there is no such thing as one's natural reaction. The circumstance that you construct is faulty. It is based on a foundation that is shaky at best. It says that to decide ahead of time truncates or eliminates the process or the ability to naturally react to something in the moment. There's no such thing as naturally reacting to anything in the moment. Your natural reaction is simply the nice phrase you have given to what happens when you spontaneously analyze prior data and come from that. All of your so-called natural reactions are simply the responses of your to your prior data. And it's impossible, by the way, not to respond to your prior data. So I would encourage you not even to deny that, because it's just not, I can prove to you that you can't do that. You cannot not come from prior data by any other path than the one I'm showing you. Now, if your prior data allows you to be a really nice person, because you've had a good life and not a whole lot of stuff going on, or you've worked through it or whatever, which is the long way around the horn, then you might, in fact, these days, spontaneously and naturally respond to an exterior event in a way that's more or less harmonious with the world around you. If that's true for you, at the age that I suspect we're close to the same age, in our late 50s or early 60s. What are you, 42?
I'm 46.
46, okay. Well,
I got hit in the eye, that's why I look older.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so you're 4 or 5 years younger than I thought you were, but nevertheless,
Lived the hard life.
well, and in fact, that might be more true than you think, and that might be why, if you've come to a place now where you can respond to exterior data in a more even-keeled, more harmonious way. I suspect, however, if you're like most people, that you respond to incoming data now much differently than you did when you were 19, and much differently than you did when you were 23. Is that your experience?
I'm a scientist, so I have to have evidence in front of me before I come to conclusions.
Wow. That's great. But let me just ask you the question, ask you if you'd be willing to answer the question. Do you respond to things differently now than you did when you were 19?
Absolutely. I've evolved to that point.
Okay. Well, of course, we're discussing the process of evolution. And the process of evolution is one of shifting one's prior data. You just add to the data. You know more about that. You're older and you know more about that than you did when you were 19, and so do I. So our reactions are different, but they're still reactions. They're not creations. They're still reactions. And so it is virtually impossible for you to have what you would call a natural reaction. You can have a normal reaction, normal meaning what you usually do under those circumstances. But a natural reaction, as opposed to a normal reaction, is the reaction that you would have if you had no prior data on the subject whatsoever and were coming from a place of pure creation. As if the circumstance never presented itself like that before in your whole life. That's a natural reaction. But most human beings find it virtually impossible to have a truly natural reaction because they come from prior data necessarily. Unless they don't. Unless they come from prior data but choose to ignore it by deciding ahead of time how they're going to respond. Now, this is a much longer answer than we want to take time to stop going to lunch for, but let me just kind of close this down here, and then we'll pick up after lunch because they're waiting with the food there. But let me say this much quickly to you. What we're going to be discussing after lunch is the amount of time prior to the event that exists. The amount of time that exists between the time we decide about how we're going to react and the event itself. I'm going to agree with you in a sense. We're going to use wordplay here, but I'm going to agree with you in a sense. If you decide 6 years ahead of time, or 6 months ahead of time, or 6 days ahead of time, or perhaps even 6 hours ahead of time, how you're going to react when an event occurs, perhaps in your lexicon, in your world, that feels like you have eliminated your options and not allowed you to react spontaneously. But the master is one who does not even have to decide years ahead of time, or months ahead of time, or days ahead of time, or weeks ahead of time, or hours ahead of time, but a nanosecond ahead of time. That is, he is so aware of what's going on in the room in every single moment of now that he can almost determine in the next nanosecond what's going to occur, and he decides in that nanosecond how he's going to create his experience of it. You would call that process, well, Neil, if that's the case, you're talking about just being naturally spontaneous.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, but it's not. The master is so aware of every moment that he simply decides in that moment how he's going to feel about the next moment, as opposed to feeling the feeling after the moment has occurred. It's this rather than this. And it's this rather than this. It's just that fast. But it makes all the difference in the world.